Okay, good morning, everybody. Hazel, are we live now? Just let me know.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair.
Yeah, right. Well, welcome officers and members to the Economy and Development Select Committee. This is Thursday, the 10th of June, 2021. We have to acknowledge to note the appointment of me as chair of the committee. And at this stage, I call upon nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Roden, please. Chair's Councillor Alan Davis.
I'll second that. Do we have any other nominations? No. Well, can we indicate whether we are all agreed that Councillor Roden is the vice chair of this committee?
I'd like to accept as well, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, I'm in favour.
Right, thank you. Right, I'll then take apologies for absence. Councillor David Evans has apologised together with Councillor Matt Feekins. Giles Howard and Sarah Jones will be attending this meeting, but they will be late. Right, then we'll take declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations now?
As and when, Chair.
Thank you. I have not received any notification of public open forum. So we'll then proceed to agenda item number 6 on the agenda to consider the future economy's ambition statement and the link to regional picture with the local direction. So I think possibly Kath Fallon is going to present that. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, I will, if that's okay. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Chief Officer for Enterprise, Francis O'Brien, Hannah Jones, our Strategic Lead for Employment and Skills, and James Woodcock, our Business Insights Manager, who will sort of get involved as we move forward. So I've got a brief presentation, if that's okay, and then if we can work through that and then perhaps take some questions and answers afterwards, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. I'll switch my camera off.
Before I go on, can I just check everybody can see the screen, please?
Yeah, I can.
Wonderful. Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all today really about our economic growth plans. This really follows on from the previous meeting where we talked about the regional picture, and we had a presentation from Kelly Byrne, who's the director for the Capital region. So this is an opportunity for us today really to look at what we have in place in terms of the economic growth and ambition plan and our investment inward investment prospectus, and really to sort of, we wanted to check with you really in terms of how you felt about how relevant they are as we move towards economic recovery, as we sort of bounce forward out of COVID-19, their relevance in terms of our local Indigenous businesses, and also how we use them to attract new investment and sustainable employment opportunities. You've received copies of the actual documents, so that's our Vision Monmouthshire 2040 Economic Growth and Ambition Statement, and also our Inward Investment Prospectus, and those are the documents we'll be discussing this morning. So the purpose really of the documents that we actually promote Monmouthshire's strengths in terms of our dynamic county, its diverse, resilient economy, and the fact that we have, you know, sort of operating in a beautiful, protected environment. We're very lucky as a rural county. We're very geographically well connected in terms of our infrastructure, our centricity, not just to Cardiff and the Cardiff capital region, but also not far from Bristol and the Midlands, Southwest, etc. So, you know, an enviable location really. But we've also got a plethora of successful tourism, food and agricultural businesses, and are attracting and sustaining a strong core of manufacturing, digital and tech businesses. And importantly, it's an incredible place to live. You know, it's been voted that many occasions, and Ussock clearly is the regional winner at the moment, sort of this year. So it's a great base for us to work within. However, we do recognise that we have some challenges. We have an ageing population, and if we don't really intervene by 2036, 36% of our population is going to be over 65, and currently our median age is 48, so the oldest in the Cardiff Capital Region. And whilst we have very well educated young people, obviously we need to ensure that we can provide sufficient opportunities to enable them to earn and live locally as we move forward. We also have a dual economy, really in terms of our out commuting rates. I mean, clearly we're in a slightly different environment now with a lot of people still working from home as we come out of the pandemic, but that actually does have an impact in terms of the gross salaries, as we can see there. Also, whilst we talk about a beautiful landscape, the topography itself, it doesn't really lend itself to digital infrastructure. So we've taken longer to deploy our digital infrastructure as a result of that, in terms of how we actually sort of manoeuvre cables and things around the county. So our digital deprivation currently is higher than the rest of the Cardiff Capital Region, but we have got programmes in place to address that, and also looking at a 5G programme, for example, at the moment. As I mentioned, the out commuting rates are quite high, and that's something that we need to look at, particularly in terms of our pledge as we go carbon neutral by 2030. Our housing is also expensive, at the highest in Wales, which obviously therefore is an issue in terms of our young people who might want to stay within county, and therefore having to sort of, you know, looking to buy in a very expensive environment. And similarly, our housing is in short supply, so that's something that we need to be looking at too. But really, we want to maximise on our opportunities. If livability attracts talent, so in other words, if we, you know, really capitalise on the wonderful environment that we have, particularly as people sort of, if they, you know, continue to work from home, that will enable us to retain a younger, economically active demographic, I beg your pardon, and actually reduce that median age down from 48. We really want to build on our education and skills and the first-class education that we've got to enable us to address this underemployment, and also to look at our startup scene and encourage students to think of their home county as a natural place for them to start their new business. Our incredible landscape also helps with our pledge to strive to go carbon neutral, and we really want to sort of enable our key growth sectors to grow. So that's manufacturing, that's growing and bucking the national trend, our business, professional and scientific base, which is growing from a small base but has the potential to grow further, and also our very strong arts, entertainment and recreation sector that's growing well and is well represented. So therefore, if you look at the purpose of our plans, it's very much to work alongside our replacement local development plan to identify suitable employment sites and premises to attract new businesses, because if we want to look to expand and grow our Indigenous local businesses and also to provide opportunities for our inward investment, we need to have increasing availability and quality of employment sites and premises, also increasing availability of housing sites to create construction jobs, and also to look at how we tackle these geographic differences in terms of employment and housing markets. So our vision for 2040, whilst our challenges can be complex, our vision is for the future is simple. We want to build sustainable and resilient communities that support the well-being of current and future generations, which is actually very much about the purpose of the local authority. So in terms of our key priorities, we want Monmouthshire to be a dynamic place to do business, a credible place to invest, and an incredible place to live and visit. So when we talk about a dynamic place to do business, we talk about and sort of investment opportunities and this wonderful place to live. We need to raise the profile of Monmouthshire as a key investment opportunity. We need to lay the ground rules for an economic environment which enables business to land and our Indigenous business to expand and provide those sustainable employment opportunities for local people. We need to attract funding and investment to attract the right conditions for an inclusive economy, which takes into account our social justice agenda. So we're looking at being equitable, sustainable, stable, participatory and growing, and to set an ambition which is sensitive to the landscape to ensure that Monmouthshire remains an incredible place to live, visit and stay. So quite a wide remit that we have there. So how are we going to deliver this? So we've looked at sort of 4 different aims around productive Monmouthshire, healthy and happy Monmouthshire, prosperous Monmouthshire and welcoming Monmouthshire. So in terms of productive Monmouthshire, we want to look to increase the businesses relocating to the county. We want to increase businesses expanding and moving to new premises, which is key to us as they have all the local workforce in place and they're keen to stay. Once they anchor, they are keen to stay here. We want to increase UK and international investment. We want to increase the number of local suppliers securing public service contracts, and we're working towards that with our mutual delegation agreement with Cardiff County Council now. We're looking to increase the retention of our younger economically active demographic, but also to increase in gross average earnings of those residents who live and work in Monmouthshire. So looking at how we sort of start to tackle that dual economy income. It's important that Monmouthshire maintains its status as a healthy and happy place, an incredible place to live. So we need to encourage the construction of new homes, and we need to reduce the unaffordability ratio, as we've talked about, young people being able to afford to live and work in the county, and also that opportunity to increase the impact and use of our wonderful Mon Life services. In terms of a prosperous Monmouthshire, we want it to be a place to thrive. So we want to look at an increase in a take-up of apprenticeships amongst businesses and within councils. We want to reduce the number of people not in education, employment or training. We want to reduce that number of underemployed young people. We want to increase our next generation access broadband coverage and look to nudge up that digital infrastructure target. But also we want to look to how we improve our mobile phone coverage as well. And as I mentioned, we're looking at a delivery of a rural 5G testbed project at the moment, but importantly, reduce those out commuting rates. And then in terms of the offer that we've got is just amazing in Monmouthshire. So how do we promote that? Our county's tourism officer and help our colleagues in Visit Monmouthshire to do that, to increase that annual visits and visitor spend and the total number of annual visits. Also, how do we repurpose our high streets to reduce shop vacancy rates in our towns? And also, how do we ensure we capitalise on that unique and distinctive identity that we have? And that's what drives our visitors to our offer in our towns. But however, we all know we're working in the landscape and the impact of Covid-19. We've had a lot of people claiming out of work benefits, although there is a drop now, as we see in April 2021. However, the proportion of claimants has been lower than the rest of Wales, but still significant. We had quite a high percentage of people that were furloughed, all that is dropping down now. And our social economic data really suggests that Monmouthshire, while being significantly impacted by the lockdown, as every other county was, it has been less impacted in other areas, and that's due to the strong underlying socioeconomic characteristics, such as the very low proportion of claimants pre-COVID, and that's really strong, diverse business sectoral mix that we have within the county. However, our demand for B1, B2 industrial use is high and was high pre-COVID and is likely to remain high post-COVID once our confidence is regained, alongside the need for space for logistics and warehousing, which obviously is linked into our enviable centricity that we talked about earlier. So in terms of what we did for businesses during Covid-19, up until the end of March 2021, as an authority, we made over 6,500 payments of grants to local businesses, worth a total of just shy of 40 million. So significant effort to get that money out to businesses to ensure that we could sustain them as long as we possibly could. A range of businesses have been supported, from retail, hospitality, leisure, right the way through travel, events and services. And also, given the nature of the lockdown, it's sort of, you know, as it's come in different ways, so they've received multiple payments. Also, we established a business resilience forum, which, casting our minds back, was actually originally set up to address the issue we had with flooding, and literally the first meeting reverted straight to, you know, dropped us straight into a Covid-19 environment. And in fairness, that business resilience forum has been excellent. It's provided really good conduit for conversation with our local business groups and also with us as an authority, and we have very much moved forward together. And that's been evidenced a lot through our Shop Local, Shop Monmouthshire campaign, which has sort of gone from strength to strength. So our opportunities in a post-COVID world are very much about ensuring we've got an enabling framework to create active settlements, an environment to safeguard and create sustainable jobs. We need to align with the Welsh Government economic resilience and reconstruction missions, so very much about how we support the foundational economy. Hardest hit, where we need to, when we just look at some of the retail stories that have been out there, how we regenerate our town centres, and that actually will be the topic of the next meeting, so we can explain to you, and Mark Han can come along and explain from a placemaker perspective where we are on that. Our digital capability that we've discussed, and also how we're innovative in our activities. And already we're seeing a rise in entrepreneurship as people start their own business. Some people, as they come out of furlough, have decided to start their own business. And it's really how much that we can actually support that as a team to ensure that we ensure they're sustainable as they move forward, because obviously this can create a significant amount of additional jobs, particularly if everybody who created a business employed one other, just an example. So also we've got opportunities for our young people, our Kickstart scheme, our apprenticeships, graduate placements that we're looking to build on. We also want to talk to you about producing an employment and skills prospectus. You know, how can we add value to that and the team and the work that Hannah's team are doing there, and also how we promote quality of life and opportunity. This work-life balance is very, very important to people, as we've all seen throughout COVID. So the more opportunities we can retain in county encourages people to live and work locally, which helps with our footfall in our high streets and all the other things, but also how we capitalise on that growth in construction jobs, and to a certain extent build our way through recovery and into growth. However, we need to have the right land in the right place and the right interventions, which is why this is very much in tune with our replacement local development plan, how we work with our colleagues in planning to ensure that we're all moving forward as one. Also, green growth is a massive opportunity for us in terms of maintenance and installation of e-charging systems, community energy initiatives, hydrogen transport systems with the River Simple, as we all know, and how we capitalise on that Welsh Government target of that 30% of people working from home. Given the demography of our sort of working population, we have a lot of managers, directors, professionals, the third highest level for Welsh local authorities after Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan. If those people are more likely to work from home, clearly they will shop locally, which can only benefit. So we're also looking to provide smaller, more open plan co-working spaces in our town centres, so we can drive that footfall and support the local economy. Because whilst it's convenient, as we all know, working from home, we do all really crave that sort of social interaction now, as we're sort of, as we step forward and start to think of what our new working life will look like. So we're starting to think whether or not we can develop an employment and skills prospectus. So if I just hand over to Hannah for a moment, Hannah will actually talk you through that. So Hannah, if you want to take the mic.
Thanks, Kath. Can everyone hear me? Am I presenting?
Yes,
Yeah, lovely, thank you. So thank you, Kath. Yeah, we're looking to develop an employment and skills prospectus, and I wanted to bring it to the select this morning to gauge your thoughts and ideas. So within the economic and growth ambition plans, Cass touched upon, you know, the need we support our young people in terms of employment, those at risk of becoming NEET, not in education training. So there were some key themes that we think we need to pull together in terms of perspectives. So supporting jobs and skills, the increasing demand for reskilling and upskilling to meet our local labour needs. Support around mental health and well-being is key. You know, we've gone through some really challenging times during COVID-19, and continue to offer that support, and how that has become a barrier for some of our residents in engaging in employment. We offer a vast range now of qualifications and training opportunities within the team, which are very much work related. So we would really like to showcase those opportunities in the prospectus. We'll give a focus around those growth areas that Kath touched upon, and creating those job opportunities. It's key for us to be collaborating with our local businesses and employers, and it's about that community approach to supporting our community in obtaining those job opportunities and skills. You know, as Kath touched on, we want to increase our earnings in Monmouthshire. We want to drive forward digital inclusion, living in and working in Monmouthshire is a fantastic place to be. We want to grow our own, retain our skill set in Monmouthshire. So we've got the NEET reduction strategy and we've got the graduate apprenticeship and intern strategy. So alongside the plans that Kath has presented, we would like to develop a perspective, whether that's like a brochure or a live web page or even an app, really, to kind of delve deeper into what we can offer, looking at some of our challenges, particularly around supporting people with limited health conditions, disabilities, and that high end that Kath touched upon in terms of supporting people into higher level employment opportunities and apprenticeships going forward in those particular growth sector areas. So it was great to come along this morning and just gauge your views if you feel a perspective will be helpful alongside the plans. Thank you, Kath.
Thanks, Hannah. So really what we're asking today is that sort of really would be guided by you, but in terms of points for consideration, we feel the documents actually need a data refresh. Some of that data is, obviously out of date now. We also feel a new forward from our Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Enterprise, Councillor Jones, would be really helpful in terms of how the current plans, sort of help us as we move forward. But importantly, are they fit for purpose? Do they tell the right story for a post-COVID Monmouthshire? Are the documents contemporary enough? Are the priorities and aims still relevant? Would the employment and skills prospectus that Hannah's just discussed be a useful addition? So then how do we look to promote those refreshed documents wider and raise the profile of the county? And we would very much welcome your thoughts. But before we do, if I could just ask Councillor Jones, as Cabinet Member for Enterprise, to offer her thoughts, please. So I'll come out to this presentation now. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Kath, and thank you, Hannah, as well. I don't really know what to add after that. It was a brilliant presentation, and from my perspective it covers everything that I think we should be asking in terms of the questions, but also I think building on what we've done already through this strategy and this statement. So I think, you've already touched on it in terms of the challenges in this post-COVID world. And I think for me personally, where I really want to see a focus for us as a council is how we create the conditions to enable our local economies to thrive. But most importantly as well, how do we create as a community of entrepreneurs and new startups, SMEs, because I think that's something we've got a real gift at as a county. And I'd love to see an opportunity, particularly for younger people, to get involved in entrepreneurial activity, because they're our future and they're the ones that are going to help create this sort of economies for the future. So that's something that I'm really keen on in terms of the sort of skills and development on that. Hannah touched on the employment and skills prospectus. I think personally, I mean, this is for you guys to inform us, but I think that's a brilliant idea. And I love the idea of an app, so how we can try and link people up and give them opportunities through the sort of digital platforms that we might have, and also linking in social capital to our skills and employment prospectus. So how we bring people in who have got skills that can help provide those to our young people, so giving them the sort of skills and upskilling them in the future through that sort of social capital we have at our fingertips. I think given I was Cabinet Member for Community and Partnership previously, I think that's really still stuck very much in my core. So in terms of making sure that we build on business partnerships, so I want to really develop that and ensure that any engagement we have is fully consultative with our business community and with those people that can help inform and guide us going forward. I appreciate I'm a bit of a scattergun approach here because Kath, you've covered everything, but just some of the other things that I'm really keen on as well from a Cabinet Member perspective. The work-life balance, again, creating the conditions for people to want to stay and live, work, play in Monmouthshire. And it's about ensuring that with these new challenges, with the new policy directives, like moving towards 30% of people working from home, how do we make sure we create an environment which allows people to thrive? And we've all said it before, in terms of having to re-socialise now, going back to the office, it's quite a scary prospect for a lot of people. So what can we do to help enable people to feel comfortable in the workplace and not to want to have to out-commute and find work outside of Monmouthshire? And I think just the final thing for me to say that I'm really keen that we don't lose sight of is the fact that we have core economies. So whilst we might be looking at future economies, high-tech economies and digital economies, we mustn't forget that tourism agriculture, hospitality. These are areas which are our core, and they might not be seen maybe as those jobs of the future, but they're high value to our economies, and they play a really important role for a lot of people and a lot of parts of our society. So I'm really keen that we continue to support those economies and see them as a viable opportunity for people who may wish to go into them. So thank you. Sorry, just a little bit of just thoughts from me, just sort of brained up then, but really keen to hear the thoughts of this committee, as always, and to help inform the work that we're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Thank you, Chair. Shall we pass over to you, please? Thank you.
Right, thanks very much, Kath. Yeah, certainly the future economy's ambition statement is laudable, but the question arises as to what we're actually doing on the ground to encourage these businesses to come into the county. I'll just make a couple of comments about aim 1 and aim 3. Aim 1 to do with a productive Monmouthshire. How are we actually encouraging businesses from out of the county to come in when, on the face of it, we don't actually have any shovel ready or oven ready sites to encourage them to come to. Looking at the in August 2019, there was an employment land background paper which was produced. There's certainly a number of those sites that were earmarked for B1, B2 have actually now been given consent for residential use. It seems that there's a reduction in the number of sites available, and certainly so far as the new development plan is concerned, we're calling upon businesses to, or rather landowners to put their land forward for business use. But we're encouraging businesses to come into Monmouthshire without yet having those sites up and running. Local, or rather adjoining counties, Torfaen, Newport, already have shovel-ready sites where businesses can go directly into. And my fear is that businesses may well be attracted to South East Wales. They'll operate out of county, but they'll live within county, or the workers will live within county, which isn't what we necessarily want to encourage. And on another point I would make on aim 3, I'm just referring to apprenticeships. I had some figures in May of this year. I mean, so far as our own organisation is concerned, where we employ more than 4,000 people, we apparently only have 16 apprentices. We've got one graduate in marketing and communications. We've got no interns, and we've got some additional employees in Kickstart, but that's for a very limited period of time. Perhaps you could address some of those points in due course, and then leave it open to other members of the committee to make their observations.
Would you like us to answer those now, if we can work through those, Chair?
Yeah. Why not? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks. So Hannah's going to pick up the one on apprenticeships first, so we'll work back through from there, if that's okay. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Chair. Picking up on your point around apprenticeships, in terms of those figures, I understand that you feel they are low. We are continually working with managers across directorates, looking at new opportunities. So I think those graduates, I think there's more graduates than you've quoted there. And in terms of the Kickstart placements, yes, they are short term, but we are working with managers in terms of succession planning. The calibre of apprentices and Kickstart candidates coming through the authority is exceptional at the moment, Chair. We've got 2 graduates in our team that are on that pathway with us, and it is the start of a journey, in the sense that there is an appetite for more apprentices, and there is an appetite for us to look more into graduates, whether we're looking to budget with the Cardiff Capital Region graduate scheme or looking more external opportunities. So can I come back to you with some more up-to-date figures? That was my first ask, and then perhaps you provide you in further information in terms of our forward planning.
Yeah, I'd welcome that, and also, so far as our a prospectus is concerned, I think that would be certainly worthwhile doing.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. Sorry, are you happy for us to work through the other questions?
Yeah, fine. Carry on.
In terms of some of the land allocations, as you mentioned, obviously there's a call at the moment for our planning colleagues for candidate sites to come forward. And there has been some issues we take up in the past, as you're aware, which is why, you know, when we talk about industrial going to houses, sometimes we haven't had that take up. There is that call. However, recently we are having some sites that appear to have been locked for a while are starting to reopen, and we've been in recent discussions, Francis, myself, James, and also with our chief executive, with businesses looking to come into Monmouthshire on those sites. So I would say that's really encouraging in terms of they're actually starting to come forward now and to have those conversations with us. In terms of how we deal with inquiries as they come in, I'll refer to James if that's okay, and James can explain the process that he goes through with individual businesses so we can see that we can help them where we can. Thank you, James. Sorry, James, you happy to pick up?
Kath, I think that he might have dropped off the call. I can't see him on the list anymore, so I think he might have. He was here, but he must have, maybe perhaps his internet has gone or something.
Okay, not a problem. So basically what happens then as we have individual inquiries come in, James actually does tailored searches with our local agents, so we can ensure that we're making sure that we provide the right property for the right business. We are in a situation, however, with some of our Indigenous businesses, particularly in the north of the county, who have become site constrained, and we're doing an awful lot of work with them at the moment on an individual basis to see how we can actually work with them to either sort of expand where they are locally, so putting them in touch with our planning, but also in terms of looking at potential other sites. That's something we're doing literally on a day-to-day basis. So we are having those touch points. It's very much a bespoke local offer, and we do find businesses really, you know, sort of benefit from that and value that as a service. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Francis, from an inward investment perspective?
Morning, everybody. In terms of inward investment and how that works across the region, the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal does play a key role for us in trying to support and coordinate inward investment opportunities and conversations. They also interlink them with Welsh Government in terms of their foreign inward investment teams, and also how they work to identify where a business is looking to land within Wales, identifying potential sites. What normally happens if an inward investor is coming into the region or into Wales, they will contact us at a local level if they're looking for specific sites or locations that they think might be suitable based upon that company's requirements. So it can be quite challenging for us at a local level to be able to influence what happens at a national and global scale, as you can imagine. So trying to ensure that we work with those relevant departments within Welsh Government is key for us in terms of building those relationships to make sure they understand what opportunities we have within Monmouthshire and making sure they know who to come to and keep us on their radar. That's quite a useful thing for us to do, and we're meeting with Welsh Government colleagues in the regional economic team towards the end of July. And at the end of July, we will be going through with the whole team in the South East Wales regional team in Welsh Government, talking about our ambitions and our plans in terms of the economy, and also in terms of how that interlinks them with what we're doing and what they can be doing. So what they're looking for from us as officers is to explain to them what we're working on and where the opportunities are that we see, so that they can be able to feed into that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think Richard Roden would like to come in at this stage.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm quite interested to know if you actually chase after sites that are of strategic importance. Can you actually hear me, by the way, because the picture's just changed?
I can hear you.
Grand. In essence, do you try to create strategic sites, or do you just wait for candidate sites to come in? Do you actually try and persuade people that are coming forward with candidate sites that maybe it would be better to utilise them for other purposes than the ones that they first envisaged? For example, in Monmouth, we have a need for perhaps a hotel. It could in Britain, but we don't have any sites. Very important aspect for business: sites, services and people. Secondly, in terms of inward and outward mobility from the county, we are concerned about the ecological aspects, the fumes, pollution, etc. In the future, we will see quite an increase in the number of electric cars and other vehicles, which will reduce pollution. So therefore, maybe the focus could be on a wider approach to employability. We have, as Kath said, a centricity. We are surrounded by a talented pool of graduates coming out of the universities in the cities, and maybe we could actually emphasize that to potential employers looking for sites, looking for workers in the county. I think that covers it for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roden. Those are really good questions. In terms of the chasing sites of strategic importance, we have actually done breakfast meetings with our planning colleagues. We've done them jointly, where we've actually encouraged owners of strategic sites to come forward. So we explained where we want to get to in terms of our economic growth and ambition plan. We've set the scene, and we've actually encouraged people to come forward, and they've actually sat down with planners, looked at sites and land that they may own, and we've encouraged them to do that. So we have done that. We did that sort of pre-COVID, and something that we're looking to take forward again. So that's absolutely key. I totally agree with you. In terms of sort of really, selling our offer in terms of the quality of the graduates and the students that we have in county, we hope that our prospectus will go some way to do that. And particularly in terms of, as you say, that reduced mobility and the fact that people are out. We've noticed as well that the fact that people have really learned to enjoy their environment more. Whilst they've been at home, they've actually appreciated where they live, and to actually started to shop more locally. And whilst the city centres are being hard hit, we're starting to see, sort of that vibrancy coming back to our market towns, as you know, although we've got a slight concern in some of them that we just need to address. So, I think that's the huge benefit, is working way more closely now with our planning colleagues. We're all actually talking from the same place. We've all got the same ambition. And under Francis's leadership, that's getting stronger and stronger. We're very much working together as a team. There's no siloed work, and we are actually doing that. So I hope that helps answer your question. Francis, anything further that you wanted to add, please? Or anything I might have missed?
Just to add that we will be going back out for a call for the candidate sites after full council considers the preferred strategy on the 24th of June. And we would encourage everybody, if you have any connections or networks of people who are landowners or potentially interested in bringing forward a candidate site, to do so. Is we do find often that when we're having conversations with businesses, that they're unaware that they need to be coming forward through that process and identifying their sites for the revised local development plan. now is the opportunity, I guess, to shape that conversation with prospective landowners or businesses who are looking to land or expand within the county. So there will be a window of opportunity for people to bring their candidate sites forward, and that will start, I believe, from the 5th of July, Chair, and will run through July and into early August. Thank you.
Councillor Becker has a question. Councillor Becker.
Thank you, Chair. First off, I'll just like to say apologies that I've been reasonably absent from these meetings for the last few months, just the pressures of the outside world, children and COVID, etc. Yeah, I think the report is pretty good overall. I've got a lot of time for the aspirations. I think the point that concerns me is really the aim to the welcoming Monmouthshire aspect. I think when I look at it, it seems more like a plan from the first decade rather than the third decade in the millennium and the aspirations going forward. I mean, I'm sure I'm on record as saying before, I detest the phrase that's on page 30 that we pledge to strive to be carbon neutral. I think it's the most political wimp out that you can get. We either pledge to do it or we don't. We don't pledge to strive to do something. And I think that we're neglecting that climate aspect of our plan as it relates to how Monmouthshire is a welcoming and a great place to visit and live in. You know, we need to make more about the fact that we need to be pushing forward now. I know COVID has got all our minds at the moment, but the climate question is really the biggest challenge of our time and will continue to be so. We should be pledging to go carbon and not pledging to strive. We should be stating that our aim is to build net zero, because the people that you want in county, this 30% that work from home, that is important to them. If we go down the current row that we're going down at the moment, we're going to end up as just increasing our dormitory sort of persona rather than our in-county sort of aspects. So I really think that we need to be making more ambitious things about how, I mean, we're saying that we want to be sustainable and resilient. That's at the core of sustainability and resilience, the idea of carbon neutral and net zero. I do agree with Sarah about our core industries, and particularly in tourism. I find that seems a bit fluffy in the report. To me, it doesn't tell us much about how we're doing it. My last brush with tourism for Chepstow was that we were described as the active travel town, which up until May this year you had to drive for half an hour to get to a family-friendly cycle track. So, you know, there is a disconnect between what we're saying our ambitions are for some of these core things and what we're actually doing on the ground and historically what we've done. That disconnect between this specification of our ambition and what we're doing, it's the same with the net zero and the carbon neutrality. And it's the same with things like when we look at the future tech, you know, we talk about our 5G ambition. I live on the hill outside Chepstow. I'm not particularly rural. I can't get 4G, let alone 5G. So, you know, there's a disconnect between what we're doing on the ground and what we're saying that we want to achieve. If we want to achieve that sustainability, we need to set ourselves a bit more ambition that's a bit more practical. The net zero, the carbon neutral, just, you know, the better tourism focus, you know, knowing what we want and facilitating it for people. I think we're not really doing that. I think I welcome the idea that we're going to do the co-working spaces. I've always been a big advocate of that. I think that we have to be very careful in the product that we offer if we're going to offer that product, because it's not a library. You know, I work in these co-working spaces, although not for the last year, obviously. But you know, people are attracted to them because of the aesthetic of them, not just because they're a place to talk to somebody. You know, we had somebody who came and had done a PhD study on incubators and these places, and one of the top points that people said was the coffee. Yeah, that was a major thing. It is the aesthetic, it is the feel of those places. So if we are going to go forward with trying to provide a product of our own in that regard, I think we need to be very careful that is a commercially competitive in terms of the aesthetic and what it provides. The only other thing that I'd offer as a comment would be for Hannah about the app. We talk about, when we're talking about the aspirations of young people, we're talking about well-being and those kind of aspects, and any functioning well-being system is predicated on listening rather than telling. You know, well-being is a cycle of listening and you know, identifying needs and acting on those needs, and then reviewing how they've worked and going back around in the cycle. So if we do have any app that is to try and reach out with training and apprenticeships, yeah, it needs to be 50-50 with tell us what you want, rather than just here's what we've got. You know, that could be a really powerful tool for us in actually providing what it is that young people need to stay in the county, rather than what we think they want to stay in the county. So yeah, it's more commentary maybe than necessarily queries to answer, but that's certainly my tuppence on it. Overall, really good job. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jez. Interesting points there. Alan Davis, if you'd like to come in.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Good presentation. I think it's fair to say that all of those things that you've got in your document, Kath, we've discussed, you know, previously at Economy and Development, and we're all fully behind those ambitions. But at the end of the day, that's what they are, ambitions or dreams and wishes, and it's all about delivery on those ambitions at the end of the day, is it not? And you know, I've had for many years now serious concerns about the future of Monmouthshire if we don't deliver on those ambitions. They're all the right ambitions, we're all saying the right things, but the question for me is about delivery and who's driving what. And well, it's not my job anymore to drive those sort of things. It used to be, but not anymore. At the last meeting we had, Councillor Roden made this statement. He said members need more information about the work taking place and what's in the pipeline. And I think he's quite right, because our job is to scrutinise what you're doing and looking at your performance against your targets. And what I'm not seeing is, in terms of delivery, a reporting method back to us as a committee in terms of what are your targets, in terms of time. You talk about digital, we're behind on digital, so what's the plan, when's it going to be delivered, that sort of thing. Because in order to scrutinise correctly, we need the correct information. And all we've got at the moment is a series of ambition or wishes. And what I want to see is more detail behind the action plans and the delivery targets behind those ambitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Perhaps Kath, you could respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will. And quite right. Yes, it's nice to cite an ambitions, but ultimately we need to demonstrate that we're actually moving forward. We've obviously completed our service plans, which are part of the wider performance framework for the authority, and we will very happily bring that back to another meeting in terms of where we are, and perhaps towards the end of the year maybe, and then we can show how far we've come between sort of April and towards the end of the year, if that's okay. Absolutely quite right. So thank you for that, really. Councillor Davis, in terms of Councillor Becker, you're very right to challenge us on my wording, actually, in terms of the thrive to, or the pledge to strive to carbon neutral. Things are actually moving at quite a pace, so in that sort of particular area. So I will pass to Francis at the moment to be able to give us just an update on where we are. So that's more something in my language that I have actually updated as you were talking. So you're right to pick us up on that. In terms of co-working, we totally get it's about the vibe and about the coffee. Our initial research has demonstrated that to us, and that's actually been built in as we move forward, for example, in our bids for the Levelling Up Fund and in terms of a co-working space, etc. Absolutely, it's about the vibe, because if you don't set the vibe right, you're not going to get people to come. It has to be sort of a nicer environment than sort of being at home on your own. So a library environment would not work. So if I pass over to Francis in terms of carbon neutral, then Hannah can pick up then in terms of the app you mentioned, if that's okay. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Kath. And with regards to the question and challenge that Councillor Becker proposed there, I think that's very valid and relevant. It does need strengthening within the document, and that's something we can take away as an action to ensure that that's core as part of our purpose going forward. In terms of the authority's progress against the Climate Emergency Action Plan, a report I believe is coming to full council in June, or if not in June, it's the council meeting, in July. And we're looking to also reset and review that action plan and strategy and bring that forward to members later on this year for review. I think it's a really valid point that all of the strategies and documents that we've got need to align to that climate emergency and that ambition, and that's something we can take away as an action as a result of the select committee today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, did you want me to come in? Thank you, Councillor Becker. Really appreciate your feedback on the app. We're currently carrying out some consultations with our young people and adults around our services and what we offer, and with stakeholders. So we would be really keen to implement what you said. Tell us what you want. It is key for us. So yeah, we're more than happy to take that forward. Picking up on what Councillor Davis said around targets and performance, we would be more than happy to provide that information. It's in our service business plan, as Kath said, and we live and breathe targets and performance on a daily basis. So we're more happy to provide that in our service area.
Thanks very much. Can I come in with a question now? It's a question of the synergy between businesses and educational establishments in South East Wales. Are the educational establishments and the businesses actually talking to each other to determine what skills and qualifications the businesses require, and whether the colleges and universities are actually providing what the businesses want? Are they talking to each other, in other words?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, they are talking to each other. I sometimes worry about that on a personal basis. So this doesn't happen on a local authority level. It's tasked by the Regional Skills Board and the Cardiff Capital Region. Those where the conversations go on. As you're aware, there are sector areas which are priorities and have cluster group meetings. So, for example, advanced material and manufacturing. So within those cluster meetings, there's the gathering of intelligence from those employers regarding their skills challenges in those areas. And quite recently, I was on a call this week. We're looking at more higher apprenticeships in manufacturing going forward. So it's key to those conversations. How they influence post-16 training. As you're probably aware, Welsh Government provide HE with less funding rather than further education, but nevertheless those conversations do go on, and there is particular buy-in from the employers in those sector areas and the FE and HE colleges. So they all link with Industry Wales, and it's part of the Cardiff Capital Region drive going forward. So, for example, I sit on the local authority cluster group as the Cardiff Capital Region. So I talked about advanced manufacturing. I think there's a foundation economy cluster group, digital. So the key areas, green economy is a key driver at the moment as well. And I think it's really important that those higher apprenticeships have always been there. It's nothing new, but there is a definite need for further advancement going forward and offering those opportunities across the 10 local authorities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. Kath, you want to come back in there?
Thank you, Chair, but I don't think I can do anything better than Hannah's just done, so thank you, Hannah. I didn't know if you did just want to bring in James, though, in terms of the bespoke advice that he offers for businesses. I'm just conscious that James sort of got cut off at his moment, really, if that's okay.
Certainly, if he's back with us now.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kath. So, as may have been touched on when I unfortunately dropped out of the meeting, approaches and inward investment inquiries can either come direct from a business or often via Welsh Government. And I seek to understand that the needs of that business, both in terms of premises, but any other assistance or queries they have as they consider potential relocation. So identifying appropriate premises is a key part of that, but also understanding potential future skills or staff needs, and any assistance that either we can provide or partner organisations can provide in addressing those needs. Finance is also an area that generates a number of queries, both in terms of any grant funding or investment available, and particularly from the public sector. So I look to support inquirers in all of those areas really, and link them up with other organisations that can provide assistance. The inquiries that we receive from Welsh Government can often be shared with a number of authorities. So, an organisation can be considering a number of options as they look to relocate. And sometimes we're able to get feedback on the decision that an organisation has made in selecting their location. Unfortunately, in other situations, it's not always possible to understand the reasons behind a business's final decision and their choice of location. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll call in Alan Davis, but in the meantime, perhaps you could answer this question. From your own perspective, it must be rather frustrating when you've got counties like Newport and Torfaen with premises already up and running and available for businesses to move directly into, when we don't appear to have very much at all.
I suppose the fact that the vacant stock is limited is perhaps testament to the attractiveness of Monmouthshire as a location and the growth of businesses. We are certainly working closely with, and I think colleagues have mentioned that we're working closely with landowners to bring forward new sites and premises and to utilise land that has been allocated and is available within the local development plan at present, Chair.
Perhaps at another meeting or the next meeting, you could actually give us some detail as to what those areas may well be.
Yes.
The progress.
Yes, by all means, certainly, Chair. Thank you.
Alan, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't know whether this is for Francis, probably. In the past, we've spoken as a committee about cooperation across border with Bristol and that sort of thing, Gloucester. And we know we've got this new regional partnership thing coming up. I just wonder, are there any opportunities for us to work in that direction and produce some more opportunities for Monmouthshire by talking to people on a more regional basis other than within the Welsh economy itself? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Yes, I'm a member of and stakeholder of the Western Gateway. So that extends across into Bristol, Bath, South Gloucestershire, right the way across, then including ourselves, Newport and Cardiff. And the Western Gateway currently going through a process whereby they have appointed a company called Deloitte to undertake an independent economic review. And they are doing exactly that at the moment, identifying where there could be strategic opportunities for partners across the Western Gateway to work together to improve economic outputs, which is fantastic. We haven't played a significant role in the Western Gateway conversation to date, but that's something that myself, Paul Matthews as Chief Executive, and Sarah and the leader are also fully engaging in that Western Gateway conversation as they undertake this review of where they're at and what they're doing to improve going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I say thank you for that? I'm very pleased to hear that. I mean, that's really good news. But I think the concerns, some of the concerns of this committee is that being prepared part of it, which we've got concerns about the sites and the ability to compete in terms of what facilities we can offer these companies. And I think that really needs to be our priority now for the future, is putting ourselves in pole position so that, when the call comes, we can say we've got everything you want here. That's critical, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Becker raised the the issue of Monmouthshire being a dormitory place. If we don't have these sites ready within Monmouthshire, we will continue to be a dormitory, and the figures show the number of people who have to move out of the county to work, but they come back in to live, and that's not a healthy arrangement. Do we have any more questions of any of the officers, members? No? No? Anybody want to ask any more questions? If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 7. That's the forward work plan. Oh, Sarah wants to come back in. Sarah?
Yes, just very briefly, if that's okay, Chair, and not to reiterate any of the points that have been made, but just to thank members for the constructive questions and comments that they've raised today. Obviously, this is my first Economy and Development Select Committee as the new Cabinet member, and there were some really important points I think Councillor Davis made, particularly around reporting back. I'm really keen that we do report back fully to you, because obviously the devil's in the detail, as you said. So please do work with me and with officers on that, and whatever information you want to come back, or if you want us to bring back specific reports. So clearly a lot of elements of what's in this plan have specific action plans under them. So digital deprivation, for example, that will have its own specific remit of work. So just wanted to say I'm very happy to come back and make sure that we give you all the information you need to challenge and scrutinise us.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Right, if we can go to the next item on the agenda, and that's the forward work planner. You've all looked at that. There are some additional items coming, I know, on the 15th of July. That's to discuss the town centre regeneration and the bids, and indeed whether the rearrangement of the town centres as a result of the pandemic should remain or otherwise. Anybody got any comments on the forward work planner? No. And then if not, we'll proceed to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have somebody propose that who was at the meeting?
Move, Chair.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, members. I mean, clearly we are content with the ambition of the proposed economic growth plans. There are obviously some minor amendments that officers will make to that, but we certainly need to have some detail as to where we are with these sites in order to prevent Monmouthshire from becoming a dormitory county. Our delivery ambitions are paramount, really, and we do need to see targets and time details, and hopefully at the next couple of meetings we'll have some meat on the bones of that. So unless anybody has anything further to say, I'd say thank you very much for all attending, and certainly for officers. So
thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Bye now.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.